Hello. 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 Okay, that's good. Right. Okay, folks. Good evening. Hello. This is the first time streaming on YouTube. Well, properly, anyway. And certainly with a drop-down camera, which hopefully means you'll get to see the image better. So first of all, let me mute my TV so we get an echo. Okay, that's the echo gone. And let's transition. And here we go. Right. Won't be a second, guys. Sorry, I won't be a second. So that was a client that I've been working with in a while. So I just have to make sure I get you a bit of a send, buy or whatever. Okay, right. For anyone that was watching, I think probably about actually it was only last year actually. Well, actually a couple of years ago, I was doing a Joker piece, which I believe I did on Facebook Live. And this is before Facebook really became what it's become. Let me just bring that camera out. Apple Mac camera is pretty crummy, to be honest. Not the best camera in the world, but they're not really geared for streaming anyway. But I did a Joker piece a little while ago. It's put away, so I can't pull it out just yet. And while I was happy with the image at the time, I know there were flaws in the picture itself. So I started doing the second one last year, and for one reason or another, one thing led to another, I wasn't able to finish this piece. So today I kind of want to try and see if I can really nail it. I mean, I've got all the details in there, so I shouldn't need the reference part of it, but it's now just really refining it, really cleaning it up and making it look solid. So that's really what it is, and it's more kind of a relaxing picture from previous ones I'm doing. Excuse the light, but I tried to get this set up better, but it will be better next time round, I promise. This time around, I want to really kind of finish and put this one to bed so I can do new projects. Next year, one of the things I'm going to try and do on my YouTube channel and on Twitch, because I do Twitch on Sundays as well, is I'm going to really try and focus more on my sci-fi stuff. Oh, I forgot something important. Got these from headphones on. Haha. Oops. Don't. Let me just pop these on. As always, it always gets tangled up when you're trying to do stuff. Okay, hopefully that's better. I can now do my very wide voice. Okay. Right, yeah, so yeah, so I want to kind of finish this one off. But next year, 2019, my goal was to really focus on my actual preferred style of artwork, which is all sci-fi. The last year or so, I've kind of been working on just my figure drawing, faces, all that kind of stuff. Been doing other projects, art competitions, client work. So it's been a very, very busy year. And I'm still doing client work at the moment. So I'm juggling that with trying to obviously make a bit of a name for myself artistically. And things are slowly getting there. Things are definitely slowly picking up, which is really, really good. Now, one thing I don't know is how I can see chat. So let me see if I can get chat on my screen. So give me just a second to sort that out. But I need to put the headphones on back when I get back. So I'm back in 2 seconds. Hang on, sorry. Sorry about this, guys. I just didn't think this one through, because I need to see if anyone's talking. Otherwise, I'm going to struggle a bit. So this might play a video, so bear with me. But while this is playing, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought now. But while this is playing, do you like my jumper? Do you like it? I've been wanting to get a Christmas Star Wars themed jumper for a few years now, and I have finally got one. And this is a bit cheaper, because the other ones that they were selling were way too expensive. They were like, 40, 50 pounds. And as much as I love my jumpers, I really didn't want to spend that kind of money in it. Oh, come on, get out. Okay, I need to go to my channel, come on. Come on, YouTube. Ah, come on. Sorry. I'm trying to do this because what it is when I'm live on YouTube, you can actually chat to the people you're watching. So that's what I'm trying to do, so I can see if anyone's talking. So if you've got any questions, or you want to ask something, or you just want to chit chat, then at least I can see what you want to do. And it seems to be not working very well. Why are you not going where I want you to go? Ah, come on. Why is this Mac just not getting there? Right, here we go. Hopefully now I should start seeing chat. Okay. Right, sorry about that. So this whole streaming lark, it's it is quite challenging. It's a lot to get used to and figure out. So I'm still working my way around everything. But feel free to chat in YouTube. Obviously keep the comments family friendly, please. I want to keep this a channel that's going to be suitable for kids if they're watching. Alright, anyway, let's stop dawdling with this. So let's get my pencils out, so I'll start shading this guy in. Right, okay. Seems obvious to get his nose. To be fair, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this today. I just want to get this so that try and get this piece finished as quickly as I can. But I'm not going to rush it though. I don't want to rush it. I want to do it right. Because the last one I did was great, but I wanted to make sure that this one really works, you know. Wow, 1st of December already. Time has really come very fast this year. We were thinking about breaking up soon. So literally, for me, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I've got about 3 Fridays before we actually physically break up, and we are actually broken up for that Friday before. Because I know in the past, other previous jobs I had, we were working right up to Christmas Eve in some cases, and we weren't even allowed to take Christmas Eve off. But this year we're actually encouraged to do so this year, and that's mainly because what was it? It just didn't. The company thought it didn't make sense us coming in for that one day, considering it was on a Monday, I think. So they've encouraged us to take the extra. The only downside, it did mean we had to take an extra day off. We had to use one of our holidays to book it. But that said, you know, I do feel like it's nice to have that little extra day's break. Just makes it's just a nice addition. To the holidays. So how's everybody doing tonight? Good? Now hopefully this isn't freezing like it did on Twitch. Now I apologise, I did want to actually do some Beat Saber earlier on, but they didn't quite pan out that way, so but I definitely do want to do some more Beat Saber a bit later. I love that game. That game is just brilliant. It's just such a fun looking game. So faces and things like that, like proper portraits and things like that. One of the toughest things I've always find, like anything to do with figure drawing, unless it's cartoon characters, literally cartoon comic, you know, standard, still like Beano and Dandy type comic characters, you know, that sort of level. It's always been a bit of an Achilles heel for me. But so it's been something I've been kind of working on to get better at. And I do feel like I'm getting there. I've still got a little way to go to get to the level that I feel like I need to be at, but I'm certainly happy with the progress. And the thing I'm most encouraged by is just the fact that my confidence in my artwork is a ton better, you know? See, I'm starting to fill out the face a bit more, which is really, really good. Yeah, I was watching, there's a film I hadn't seen and I've been meaning to watch for a while. It's an old movie, well, oldish, I wouldn't say it's old. And it's about Facebook, the Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. It was a really interesting film actually. I quite enjoyed the movie, and it was, looking at it, I can see why this, you know, this whole scandal thing, I can see why it's such an issue, because his whole motivation even then wasn't, you know, he didn't do it for the right, you know, set the thing up for the right reasons. He wasn't just having a business idea. His motivations were, if the film's accurate, of course, you know, because films have artistic license and stuff, his actual motivations was not really for the best reason. His motivations were a bit sordid, not so well. That's probably not the right word, but they certainly weren't. You know, he wasn't an entrepreneur in that sense. He is now, and obviously he's having to be a bit more careful, but it does show his character a bit, and it will be interesting to see, you know, because I'm sure they're going to do another documentary years later when when his time has come. I'm sure we're going to see a documentary of his life at some point later on, to see where he's at, but what was the word I'm looking for? But it was interesting. But one thing I didn't realise is Justin Timberlake was in it, And the man's actually quite a decent actor, you know. I'm surprised he doesn't do more movies, to be fair. I know he's mainly a musician, but I'm kind of surprised he hasn't done more films, because he's actually not a bad actor. He's actually fairly decent. Because it took me a while to even realise that he was even in it. I was thinking, I saw him on there, and I recognised his face, and I was like, he looks familiar. And then it clicked. Oh, it's Timberlake. It's Justin Timberlake. You know, I'm ringing sexy back, that guy. In case you're not sure, but everybody knows who Justin Timberlake is anyway. Right, so far this is starting to shape nicely. Now I think, if I remember right, this is his hair. So I'm just going to try and make it so that it is showing it's the Joker hair. Now, I heard a rumour. Well, it's more than a rumour. There's a channel called Looper that I sometimes watch videos of, because it's quite interesting, some of the stories they have. And apparently they are making a standalone, well, a couple of standalone Joker films. Now, one of them I know about, which is the Joaquin Phoenix film, and quite honestly, I'm not feeling it right now. It looks like a sort of a documentary type style, you know, art house, if that's even the right word, take on Joker, which I can't say I'm that excited about, in all honesty. But what does bother me is they're apparently Jay Reno is doing a version, and I really do not like his take on Joker. Nothing against the actor as an actor, because I think he's he seems decent enough an actor, but his version of the Joker was horrible. That was not the Joker at all, not one bit. Doesn't even come close to being the Joker. And I get that, you know, everybody has their own, you know, whenever you're playing a character, you have the opportunity to what's the word I'm looking for? The opportunity to put your own feels and takes on a character. But the way that the Joker character is, he's not a gangster, and the version in, you know, the the film Suicide Squad makes him out to be more of a gangster than the Joker. And I'm sorry, that is nothing to do with the Joker. That is not the Joker. It never will be. And I really, you know, I'm sure some people love him, and for that, if you liked him in that, that's fine. I'm not knocking that. But being somebody that knows the character Joker reasonably well, to play him the way he did, and largely it's probably got to do with the direction of the guy doing the film as well, but I just thought that version of the Joker was just awful. And hearing that they're now doing a spin-off with him as the Joker, even though despite, you know, the majority of people agreeing that he was not the best Joker, it seems a bit odd to me that they're now doing a film with him in it. It seems a bit strange, unless they're going to change, unless they're going to mix up the way he's going to do it and make him a bit more the Joker that we know. And I'm not saying doing the Joker like Heath Ledger, or doing the Joker like Jack Nicholson, or even Mark Hamill for that matter, but doing the Joker so that it's at least recognisable as the Joker. Because all of these guys, sorry, let me just finish my point. Then the film might actually be fairly decent. Then the film might actually work. But neither of those movies, but for those reasons, it's really inspiring me to think, yeah, I want to see this film. I want to see this film. They're not. Just don't want to. I'd need. I mean, with the Jay Reno one, I'd need to see what they're going to do with it to see whether it's something to watch. But I'm already decided that because he's going to be playing the Joker the way that he did in Suicide Squad, which I'm assuming he's going to do, then I'm already not going to watch it. Suicide Squad as a movie was okay. It wasn't the best movie, but it was okay. And there were a few standout characters which I'll go to in a minute. But it could have been so much better, and it could have been so much more. And if the Joker was that little bit better, I probably could have bought into his character more. That said, obviously when Ryan Reynolds, anyone that knows, Ryan Reynolds played the Deadpool character twice. Apart from not, and I'm not talking about Deadpool 1 and 2. I'm talking about Deadpool as a character in 2 separate instances. He played him in X-Men Wolverine Origins, and he played Deadpool as basically a non-talking villain. Actually, he wasn't even a superhero. They played him as a villain, which is quite interesting. And they just basically covered his face up, and he didn't talk and stuff like that. And then but then he came back and played him in the way that he was intended, and he's really sold it. You know, everybody now associates Deadpool as, oh, that's Jay Reno. Oh, sorry, not Jay Reno. What's his name? Ryan Reynolds. So everybody knows Ryan Reynolds now. He's become a name at last. I mean, he's been a name for a while, but I think Deadpool's actually made him into a household name. Up until now, I don't feel like he's really been somebody that people have taken any kind of seriousness to. But since becoming Deadpool, I think, you know, I feel like that's boosted his popularity to the point that even the new film he's doing now, Pokemon Detective, which I want to see, it looks funny and fantastic. And I'm not a Pokemon fan, but that looks brilliant, and I'm sold on that one. I was able to recognise his voice in the character, so as soon as Pokemon starts speaking, I'm like, that voice is familiar. Oh, it's Ryan Reynolds. So Pokemon Detective looks good. But the point I was getting at is that he was able to take a character he played before that didn't really sell, partly because of where the direction of the movie was going with the character, and now he's made it to a recognisable character in the movies that people are interested, including myself, to go and watch again, and be a part of his you know, and be a part of that screen, part of that basically just enjoy the film. You know, if they do a Deadpool 3, which I'm sure that they will, I will definitely go and see it, because he's made the character solid enough that it's interesting. So I'm kind of hoping that Jay Reno will actually try to make him a little bit more familiar to the Joker we know. But I'm not negating you know, he wants to take his own take on it. Okay, so what I was saying earlier was that what was I going to say? Yeah, Joker. The Joker's been played by many actors over the years. Each one's got their own different take on it. However, every single one, apart from Jay Reno, has played the Joker as a recognisable, this is the Joker. There's no qualms or questions about it. That is a Joker. We know that's a Joker. We recognise that as a Joker. You know, Jack Nicholson was probably, since the original Batman series, at the time, one of the best people to take on the Joker, and he played the role perfectly. He played it really, really well. You know, he was cynical enough, he was crazy enough, and no offense to the actor himself, Jack Nicholson himself, but he's kind of that way inclined. He's a bit of a crazy kind of, you know, actor anyway. In that sense, his character's always been very quirky. So him playing the Joker was kind of a, you know, a role made in heaven for him, so to speak. You know, he was destined to play the Joker at least at some point in his life. You know, and he played it brilliantly. Now I don't know the name of the actor who played it in the Batman series. You know, the famous holy bat fingers Batman, or you know, the even more famous, I've got my handy shark repellent spray in my kit. That Joker was pretty good as well. You know, it was one of the things that I liked about the original Batman series was that, you know, the characters like the Joker and the Penguin. All the actors that played those characters played them brilliantly, and I loved them. Even though the actual Batman character hammed it up way too much, in my opinion. But that was part of the beauty of it for a lot of people. The actual villains is what made it for me. You know what made that Batman series, but they all played it excellently. But obviously the actor that played the Joker at that point had his version of the Joker. Then next up you had the Jack Nicholson one, and he had his own take, and it worked. Following on from that, we obviously had Heath Ledger, which is correction. Before that, we had the Mark Hamill take. And Mark Hamill, until Heath, has been the most recognisable Joker voice of all, with his really maniacal laugh. I mean, the laugh that Mark Hamill came up with is infectious. It's just amazing, the laugh he came up with, to the point I didn't even know. You know, when I first found out, this is years ago now, when I first found out that was Mark Hamill doing the voice, I'm like, really? That was Mark Hamill? I had no clue. And I just thought, wow, this guy, you know, he's done his Star Wars thing, and he really hasn't, which is sad, really. This man is more talented than he's been given credit for. You know, every sort of has pinned him with the Star Wars and stuff, and that's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, he wouldn't be doing the Joker if it weren't for Star Wars. He wouldn't even be doing that. You know, at the end of the day, someone else. I mean, he may have done. He may have done the audition, and it might have happened, but the chances of him doing the Joker were far less likely. Would have been far less likely had he not at least done something. You know, some movie. Anyway, I'm kind of going off track here, but his version of the Joker is probably my personal favourite. Heath Ledger's version is great, and don't get me wrong, Heath Ledger's an amazing version, and I love Heath Ledger's version. But my personal favourite is Mark Hamill. Maybe it's a biasy thing, I don't know. But I just love what Mark Hamill did for the Joker. I mean, he made the Joker really recognisable. You kind of, sometimes you loved him, sometimes you hated him. There was that real love-hate relationship that you had with his version of the Joker. You felt sorry for him, but then you knew, actually, but he's a villain. We know he's not a particularly nice fellow. You know? But Mark's version was just absolutely spot on. It was absolutely brilliant. It was really, really amazing. And then obviously the next one after that was Heath Ledger's version of the Joker, and again it was a totally different take. Made him more of a madman. Even, you know, really like Heath played him like he was actually insane, whereas you know, Mark Hamill's one was more kind of a joke. Sorry, I can't remember to look at camera. Sorry guys. Whereas Mark Hamill's version of the Joker was kind of more playful and more, you know, like, hey, I'm just having fun. I'm being a bad guy and I'm killing people, but I'm having fun. I'm just messing with you all. His take on it was there was a sense of madness. You know, you felt like the guy was off his tree. You know, and he actually scared you in terms of his character. But at the same time, there was still that lovable element, particularly when he was in the scene where he's in the hospital and he's talking to Two-Face, you know, and he's you know, trying to encourage him to basically be a bad guy, for want of a better word. But he played him. It's so different to Mark Hamill's version. It's not the same Joker, but it was still the Joker. So all of these guys that played this character, all of them played it in a way that you still knew that this was this mad, crazy guy who makes laughing gas that people, that kills people and or turns them into, you know, not zombies, but sometimes gets them to do things that they, you know, that's against their natural nature. But Jay Leno was just basically a big gangster. That's how he played it. I didn't get the sense, yes, he was a bit crazy, but he didn't come across to me like he's a psychopath. He just came across like he's just well, there isn't any other word, a gangster. He just did not play the character anything like Joker. I could not buy into Jay Reno's version of the Joker by any means, not at all. It was, quite frankly, the worst take of Joker I've ever seen, and I don't want to see it again. Sorry, Jay Reno. You know, you were good in other films, but you need to work on your Joker because and do a better job, because that was really awful. Now, it might be that they can say, oh yeah, at that point he was just learning to be the man he is, and he just needed that extra push or whatever. But ultimately, I just really did not buy into it at all. Okay. Alright, so it's starting to come along. I feel like it's starting to shape up now. It's starting to get a bit of depth going on. Hopefully you can see that as well. Now I'm using the hard pencil at the minute. The H2. Now these were actually from a pencil set that I bought recently. And the only reason I bought the pencil set was not because I wanted the pencils, because these are like Staedtlers, and I'm not overly bowled over by Staedtler pencils, if I'm honest. But I'm using them for my home drawing, not my art, you know, my commissioned art. But I bought them because there was a pencil case that came with it, and I thought that it'd be good to have that. So once these are used up and done, then I've got a nice pencil kit at home that I can use for future drawings. But these aren't the best. But this particular pencil is a H at the minute. I'm trying not to put too much shading, so I don't want to make it too dark. But I want to make sure there's a real sense of depth in the face. So I really should have got the original version out of this, so you could sort of compare it to the one I did years ago. But it was definitely a lot more. The one I did before, the face was really wonky. It was really off center. But this one does feel a lot more natural and accurate. Now, I'm not actually using any reference right now because I've used it already, but at this point I'm just using a bit of artistic license to try and find shading to bring in the face, and that's come from just what I've learned of how to draw characters and stuff like that. Try keeping in mind that there's light and stuff like that. Like here, for example, there's going to be a little bit more shade than I've actually put in there, so I need to fill that a little bit. As I say, if you've got any questions or whatever while I'm doing this, do feel free to ask. I will try and answer them. As long as they're not too personal, I don't mind. trying to add a bit more depth to this side. I will go to the next shade shortly, but I just want to get the base shade on there, get that in there. One thing I forget to do is I always forget to bring a little cloth, because you get all this pencil lines on you. Now, Jack does have quite a distinctive chin. And again, this is another reason why Jack Nicholson was really good as a Joker, because he has a specific facial structure that makes him naturally naturally fitting to the character. Oh, which is a point. There's another character, another actor, I can't think of his name, that I need to mention, who plays the Joker really well. But Jack has a particular facial feature that, even though obviously he's had makeup, you know, put onto his face, he already kind of has that really wide smile that the Joker has. 'Cause if you look at any picture of the Joker, one of the biggest things you note that stands out with him is that humongous, you know, the wide teeth and everything else. And Jack Nicholson already has that aspect of his character. He already has that, you know, wild mouth shape. But there's another guy that plays the Joker absolutely brilliantly, and if I can say anybody plays the Joker as better, or you know, if anybody can play the Joker better than on par with Heath Ledger, it's the guy that plays him in Gotham. And it's a shame that series is coming to an end. That series is brilliant, loved it, and I really hope that somebody somewhere is going to, you know, reinvigorate that series once it's finished off, whatever channel it's on. I think not CBS. I'm not sure what channel it's on actually. But the guy that, I don't know his name. I think it's Skarsgård, but I'm not. But don't quote me on that. But the kid that plays that is so good. He's absolutely brilliant. You know, he's gold to watch. He plays it part Mark Hamill, part Heath Ledger, and he is so superb. And if they were going to do a solo movie, bag the Jay Reno version, get this kid in and do it. He's just finishing Gotham. He's now free. Get him in there and get him to play the Joker, because he is the best. He is absolutely brilliant, and you have to see him. If you've not watched Gotham, watch Gotham. I think he appears. Actually, I think he does appear briefly in season 1. But you have to watch him. But he's so good. Absolutely amazing. And I highly recommend that show if you haven't seen it already, because it's just brilliant. But yeah, his Joker is captivating. You know, you want more. You want him to be on screen all the time because he plays it so freaking well. He's amazing at it, and I really want to see him, you know, at some stage, if not sooner, play that character. Because the reason why I think it's Skarsgård, because I think he's the same guy that plays It in the movie. But again, he's got one of those. He's actually got a natural smile. At least that's what it seems anyway. I mean, it may be just CGI. I don't know, but he seems to have a really big smile, a natural Joker smile. Doesn't even seem to need makeup, from what I could tell anyway. Now I don't want to hardline this too much, because if you hardline it too much it spoils the picture, but it's going to be blurred in a bit anyway, so I'm going to smudge it all in a bit later. But this is just to get the basic look of this guy and make his teeth really stand out. Now this I can hardline a bit more because it's basically his makeup. These tunes, by the way, are all YouTube tunes. Various artists from like Audionautic, Kevin MacLeod, Jeremy Huang. If that's the right pronunciation, I don't know if it is or not. YouTube's you know, and the good thing is it's free. It's what you call it, non-copyright music. So there's permission to do it. So I will try it where possible. I will put names and things like that into the video. If I forget anybody, please, you know, and it's your tune, let me know and I'll make sure that I add that into the comments if your tune's in there. But YouTube have gotten really good with their tunes of late. They've just, whoops, sorry, my chair's all. One second. Need to stretch my legs a little bit. But yeah, YouTube have really got good with their tunes, because for the longest time they have the same tunes for ages, and recently I've noticed that they've had a load of new ones added, and it makes all the difference. But they've gotten really good. You know, they make good streamer music for the background. Now, if anyone watching and don't know, on Sundays, although last week was a bit of a washout, it didn't quite work for many different reasons. I'm sorry again. I'm really sorry for that last week. If I can get the stream to work this Sunday, I'll definitely make it up to you guys. I do try and do streams on Sunday. Now, one of the things I've been trying to do is finish off my colouring for the Fantastic Four. However, being we're in Christmas now, I'm thinking that maybe I should do something seasonal. So maybe I should focus on that this week, tomorrow. So we'll see. Right. Okay. I'm guessing it's probably not gonna. I'm not gonna finish this all today, as much as I really would like to. But at least I've done a bit more work on it, and I'll be able to test this out on YouTube as well. Oh, the camera's moved. Hang on, 1 second. So hopefully that's better. Again, this is some artistic license in terms of just getting this looking well. It's funny actually, because sometimes, you know, when you draw, and I'm speaking obviously personally here, is there are times that you pick up your pencil and you're straight in and you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, and you're fine. And there are other times when you're not really in a drawing mood, but you know you need to do something, so you draw, but you're not really sure what you're drawing or not really sure where you're going. And it takes and what I find is that when that happens, it takes a while to really get into your piece and really start to feel what you're doing. And I think that's certainly the case here. You know, with this, I'm doing this because I wanted to kind of finish this piece off, because I hate having artworks just sitting around in the house that haven't been completed. Not quite sure what that is, but I'll put it in anyway. Not quite sure what that is. And it's just been sort of sitting there staring, waiting for me to do something with it. And so I'm doing this today purely for that reason, but I wasn't necessarily feeling the piece. But I'm starting to actually feel, getting the rhythm now on this, and it's almost become like, okay, I want to do this now. I want to finish this. I'm enjoying the process, particularly at this stage with this bow tie thing, and getting it looking decent, you know. So I'm starting to really start to feel where I'm going with it. You know, I'm starting to really get into crafting this and making it something special. Okay. In a minute I'm going to go into the next level up pencil wise, but this is just to get at least some level of where the clothes are and where it's going to fit. And also hopefully it's showing a bit more solidity to the character as well. While I'm down here, because even when I drew this last year, my skill level in terms of figure drawing and facials was not quite there. I was definitely getting better, but it still wasn't quite there. But since then I've been working on it quite a lot. And a whole lot of different aspects of how I construct things has become very, very different. And I've even looked at things like styles and things like that, and I'm starting to realise that I need to have a specific style, because while I do have a sort of a style, I don't really feel like it's anything that stands out, and I don't feel like it's something people say, oh yeah, that's my style of artwork, compared to say like Jim Lee's or Ink One or whoever else that I, you know, or Stan Lee for that matter, or any other artist that's out there that do these sort of things. Might as well stick with the whole Jack Nicholson style of Joker writing. So yeah, so this year I'm going to be working on style. I have a style that I think works. I mean, I'm not going to do it in this piece because this is not a portrait and it's meant to look like as close to the Jack Nicholson Joker as possible, but going forward hopefully you should see a slight change in my art style. It should still have my elements in it, but I'm hoping that from the experimentation I've done, it'll make a difference. It'll be what it needs to be. Oh, there's a bit of freezing there. That's not cool. Well, I hope I'm still streaming, but there's definitely some freezage going on, buffering. Right, if you are asking questions, I apologise if I'm not seeing them, because for some reason everything's sort of frozen a bit, so I can't even see if there's any comments or anything. Right, give me a second, let me try and refresh my screen. 1 second. Oh, don't do that. Please don't do that. if you have made any comments or questions or whatever, I do apologise if you aren't, if you have and I've not seen it. My screen has decided to freeze on me, so I can't see if there has been any chat or anything. Right. What time is it now? Wow, it's already 10 o'clock already. Wow. So we've been going for 2 hours. That's amazing. Didn't think we'd that long. Alright, so I'm going to go on the next level up, which is my actually that's 2H actually, I should have started, which is my B. Alright, so this is where it's going to really start to hopefully bring the light back in. So hopefully now we'll start making a bit more of a dent in terms of the style of him. Just bring his character out a bit more. Now I may have to use my other pencils that I've talked about before to add a bit of additional detail, but I've got another set for that anyway, so. What I'm trying to do now is just to add a bit more depth to the character. Oops, sorry. Now this is obviously his ear. See, now I can really start pushing the shadows and the shading a bit more. This is a softer pencil than the one I had earlier. It's only a HB, but it's soft enough to really bring some of the shadows in a bit, because that's what's going to make this piece really stand out. As I'm doing the hair, one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add or give the impression of individual shading on the strands. Because if anyone's ever tried to draw hair, and which could be you'll know it can be an absolute nightmare to draw the strands of hair that's in there and make them look like it's natural and feels right. And the thing with hair is, as a lot of artists will say, you don't necessarily need to draw every single strand of hair. You just need to give the impression that you know that when you look at whoever's looking at the piece, it feels like there's numerous strands of hair, and there are definitely techniques for doing that, but it's all about the way you light it rather than the way the amount of strokes you do. So in terms of like the individual strands is what I mean. So here, for example, making it show that it's going over the ear, so it's like covering the ear a little bit. Because each clump of hair has its own sort of shading underneath it sometimes. And it's that makes the hair look natural. Because you can do a whole load of lines and the hair just doesn't look like hair, it just looks like a whole load of lines. So it's kind of being random, but also being mindful that each strand of hair will catch the light in a different way depending on what direction that strand of hair is going, and that's what makes the difference between good hair and bad hair. Now I realise that this hat here needs to be a bit darker than what I've made it, because there's shading. The shadow of his forehead is going to cover up some of it.
These tunes are really quite good actually. I think it's what I don't like. What I don't like with these pencils so much is they are, even though this is a HB, it's not soft enough to really blend with the face. But I'm gonna blend it the next time I do this, so we'll be smudging things and stuff like that. So it's not going to be straight pencil lines. So what I'll probably do is, once I've finished today on this piece, next Friday I'm going to try and do a bit more work on it, and hopefully have it so that it, you know, start really putting in some much darker detail, much more solid colours, and then I'll be able to compare the original. But I'll need to get the original out so that I can show you, because I think it would have been a good comparison. That said, if you go onto my Illustrator page, on what was it the one I'm looking for? If you go onto Facebook, Disco Star Illustrations, I'm going to change that name soon. I feel like it's not the right name now. It was an name I had originally for my art experience. But I'm going to change it. But if you go to Disco Star Illustrations on Facebook, you should see the original version of this character on that site, so you can compare this one to that. And once I finish this one, this will obviously get scanned in and will be added to the connection. But I know this is going to take a while longer than I thought. I was hoping to get this done today, but I don't think realistically that's going to happen. But that's fine. Because with any artwork, if you know, don't rush it. Too many people rush it because they want likes or posts or whatever, but don't ever rush it. And if you are somebody that likes art, you do, or you want to learn to draw, don't, and be mindful of a couple of things. First of all, is it your passion? Because I do believe anyone can draw. If you really put your mind to it, you can draw. If you take a piece of artwork, say, or an image of something, if you really work it out, you could actually draw that, and you could probably draw it well if you really wanted to. The thing that differs somebody who is, so we say, for want of a word, an artist or an illustrator, from somebody that just likes drawing and does a piece, the only difference is your passion. If you're passionate about it, you know, you will take it to new levels, and you'll get better and better and better, and you'll see things and you'll understand things, and you'll look at pictures in a different way, and you go, oh, I was always drawing this way, but actually if I look at this properly, the angle is that way, and you start to incorporate that in future designs, even when you're creating your own ideas together. But if you're just somebody that just wants to draw and you're not really into it, and you're not passionate about it, you could end up getting discouraged because you're trying to force yourself into something you're not passionate about. I'm not passionate about football. I can't stand football. I don't like it. I personally find it boring, and I'm sorry if there's any football fans out there. Probably put you off now. But and I'm not knocking anyone that likes football, because if you love it and you're passionate about it, great, good for you. But for me, I'm not. But I know that if I try to learn to play football and do all the skills that footballers do when they play their games, I could probably learn the skills, but I will never be expert at them. I will never be, you know, do all these little stunts and tricks and everything else, purely because I just don't have that passion. And it's the passion that makes a difference. You know, there's been a lot of talk over the years about talent, and some people get really triggered by the whole talent thing. And it's like, why are you triggered? It is a talent. It is an ability. It's a talent which is basically just a skill, a natural flair for a skill, natural flair to a skill or an ability. That's it. It's a skill, yes, absolutely. It is a skill. It's something you learn, but you need to have a natural draw towards doing it, and that is something that, to me, is where the talent is. Talent isn't in the actual ability to draw. That's just the skill, that particular part. The talent is actually the passion to do it in the first place. And so if you are someone that likes to draw, if you just like to do it for fun, do it for fun, but enjoy it. But don't force yourself to get really good if you're not passionate about it. Find what your passion is, what you like to do. It could be a sport. It could be you're a tennis player. You prefer playing tennis and you're really, really good at tennis. It could be you prefer football and you're really passionate about football, and you know your skills in football. Focus on what you are passionate about and follow that. Don't just try to draw. You see someone draw and think, oh, I want to do that. I wish I could draw, and then you try and push yourself to doing something, and you stop yourself because you get discouraged because you can't do what they can do. Don't worry about it. Do it for fun. Draw for fun, and don't worry about being an expert at it, and leave that for people that are passionate about it. But find your passion, what you like. You may be a talented singer, and you're trying to be an artist. Yeah, as an example, say you're a talented singer, but you're not very good at art. Well, if you're a talented singer, focus on being a better talented singer. Don't worry about your art style, just because your talent is somewhere else. We're not all designed to be the same, have the same ability. We're not all designed to do the same thing. While we're all given the ability to do it, we're not all geared to be artists or to be singers or to be actors and stuff like that. We're not all meant to be this, that and the other. And I'm learning more and more that try not to do too many things at once, because you end up just not getting anywhere. And I've got numerous, thankfully I've been granted many different abilities and skills, which is great, and some I do really well and some I do okay. You know, one of them is dancing. I love dancing. I'm a fairly decent dancer. I wouldn't say I am Michael Jackson level dancing, but I can dance, you know, fairly well. But I know it's not something that I could make a career of. I do it as fun, and I enjoy it as fun. But this is something, this drawing side of it, this is something that I can make a career out of, hopefully. That's sort of my long-term goal. If I can turn this into something that can be, you know, more than just a passion, then I'll do it. But this is my number one skill, my number one ability. Everybody has their own different one, so you know, whatever your passion is, find out what your passion is and try and follow it. Right, so this is the jacket. Now I'm probably going to start looking at, you know, finishing up for the day, but I feel like I've accomplished at least the goal that I had, which is to get at least the face in, and the face doesn't look so empty. This part is kind of a bit boring because there's not a lot going on here, but I want to at least get the face part done, because then I can move on, and over time just, you know, get better, hopefully get better over time. But I'm going to be honest, doing this bit I'm finding this a little bit dull, this section that I'm doing right now. Sorry, I've got an itchy eye, 1 second. Oh, buffering again. Great. I hope that you guys are not getting the buffering I'm getting. I'm definitely getting a lot of buffering. I've tried to reduce my my bit rate on my stream to try and make it smoother, but My internet is not fantastic, even though it's supposed to be 4G, but I'm not paying a premium rate, so I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know. Right. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to get my other set of pencils out, which have got more variety, well, if I can find them. And then I'll come back and finish this off. Now the only downside is I want to make a tea, but I've got no sugar left, and I've run out of sugar, and I forgot to get some when I bought sugar today. So I'm going to have to be sugarless for the time being, which is a bummer. Alright, but I'll be back in just about 3-4 minutes. Bye bye. Okay, thank you very much for your patience there. Sorry to keep you waiting. Right, couple of things. I managed to find the original artwork that I did. I don't think you can see it properly, so I've got it turned over, so you can compare the difference, and you'll see where the original version in 1989 and the 2017 version really differ, but I'll show you in a minute. But this is a present I got from my colleagues at work recently. So again, thank you very much for that. It's it's always good to have different shades of pencils. I've got so I've got various different shades. So once the Stadlers have finished, this is one we go for. But this has got additional depth, so I can make this one a bit more solid. So I'm going to spend probably the next hour just really putting a lot more shade on this guy, starting from the hat downwards, and try and really bring this character out and really make it stand out a bit more. But it's a brand new set, so I haven't even opened it, so I thought I'd open it on stream. Why not? Okay, so there we go. Now these are ones that are called Derwent, which I know are one of the professional art pencil companies. I don't know how good they are. I've not tried them before, so it will be a bit of an experiment, but I hope that they are as good as I expect them to be. Right, so this was a HB, so I think it makes sense to just go for a straight B for the next bit. But before we do this, in fact before I do that, let's do a reveal. So this was my 1989 version of the Jack Nicholson Joker. Now I was, let's say at the time, I was relatively happy with it, but I know that I was not 100% because I knew the proportions, angle, everything else. There was a lot of things wrong with it. The chin's in the wrong angle, the mouth is slightly off center, the hat doesn't feel like it's sitting on his head properly. The bow I was happy with, that was probably the most I was happy with, and you get the sense that this is Jack Nicholson, but it was not up to the standard I expect of myself. So now bringing it forward and looking at the 2017 version, hopefully you can see the difference. This looks like Jack Nicholson. It's recognisable as Jack Nicholson, and it's recognisable as a Joker. The hat sits much better on the face. The chin and the cheeks are more or less in the right place. There might be still areas that are for improvement where I can do it better and everything else, and even like the way the body is and the way everything fits together. It is a lot more like what I expect it to be. So I'm going to leave this one to one side on the side so you can sort of see it as we're doing it. Let me just move it so it's not in the way, and let's get going. So we'll spend the next hour just really solidifying. We'll start with the hat to get the hat out of the way. So that's going to be fairly straightforward. And just add a bit more detail. In fact, now this is obviously going to be in the shine, so I can't make this too dark. But it's just the crease in the hat. Try and get this looking solid. Now I'm not going for hyperrealism. I know some people do this hyperrealism. I'm not going for hyperrealism on this one. That is a skill that I need to learn maybe later on when I feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more passionate about doing these sort of portrait pictures. I can look up maybe hyperrealism and do that maybe later, maybe do it as a challenge, but I need to get more comfortable with doing stuff like that before I start attempting something so extreme as that. But I'm going to try and get it as real as I can and as natural as I can, so at least that way it looks like a finished piece. But as any artist knows, the piece is never really finished, it's only abandoned. You know, I know when I'm drawing something, even when I've done a piece, even when it's like there's nothing more to add to it, I'm always tinkering. You know, I have to. It's very hard to sort of stop yourself and go, no, you need to stop doing that. You need to stop. Stop working on it. You have to sometimes really catch yourself with things like that, because it is so easy to keep going and then end up doing the worst thing that artists do, which is to ruin your picture and mess it up. and I don't want to mess up anything. Now here I'm trying to keep in mind that he's got a ribbon on his hat, so because on my original I've just got lines that I sort of not cheated, but I just didn't really put enough stock in the fact that there's a ribbon. Whereas this time I'm trying to keep that in mind, that you know he has a ribbon, and usually when you have ribbons and stuff like that, there are creases even in that. So I'm trying to keep that in mind, and again using the artistic license to incorporate that in the image a bit more. Because when I did this in 2017, I hadn't even thought of that. And the rim of the hat needs to be a bit more prominent, so I'm just fitting that in. And hopefully you can see where I'm going with this, where I'm making it just that bit more natural. And people can see that, you know, there's different layers to the ribbon. And I'm also trying to incorporate some level of shine, so some areas are slightly darker than they are. They probably can't tell on your screen so much, but I'm trying to keep that in mind when I'm doing it. Now I think this as a general needs to be darker, but only in as much as I need to make it more solid. But I'm trying to not make it as darker than the other part of the hat. And you'll notice I'm using the side of the pencil to do this as well. Now this part of the hat here is in the shadow, so I want to kind of add a little, just define that a little bit more. And same here. So this is where I'm really getting into it now. I'm really getting into really crafting this now. I'm starting to get excited about doing work on this, which is good. That's what you want. Because even artists get creative block. You know, you get writers. Everybody's heard of writer's block. Everybody in the world has heard of writer's block. But a lot of times people don't realise that even artists get that as well. People who do drawings and stuff like that, we get blocks as well. And it's good to recognise that. And sometimes you just need that little bit of space to get your creative juices flowing again. And sometimes just even doing shading, which is relatively simple, can be the thing that gets it going. See, like right now, this shade I'm doing right now, I'm really feeling it and getting into it, and it's like I want to make this ribbon look, you know, look fairly prominent. Now you compare the ribbons to the two. This is just lines. This actually looks like a ribbon. It's a huge difference, huge difference. And now I'm seeing now that I've done that, I can see that I need to put some dimension in the hat as well a little bit. I want to make this hat. I want to get it, make sure this hat feels like it's a free, you know, that it's in the 3D space. Now it is doable, but it's sometimes quite tricky because you have to think, well, where is the light actually coming from? Where is it coming from to make it into 3D space? So I imagine that if the light's coming from this side, light's going to hit this bit here, this area here, but not so much that, but it's still going to hit that. So this is going to be the lightest area. That's going to be particularly light, but everything else isn't. In fact, actually on this one, this, look at it now, that doesn't make sense light there. So I'm just going to darken that a little bit, bring that in a bit. Just so that you know, the reason why I decided to do this week is because when I did the first stream of this, because the first stream on Facebook Live, as I mentioned, and this is before Facebook Live even had the opportunity to actually do an actual live stream on Facebook Live. So I might even do the next time I do this, I might do it on that platform just to let other people that want to take, you know, really follow along and enjoy the process can jump in there as well. But I've got video footage of that I've saved, and I want to be able to share the completed artwork into a speed art video, but I can't do that unless I finish the piece. So that's what's sort of driving me wanting to finish this particular piece of artwork. And as I mentioned, this part here, I feel like the shadow is wrong, so I need to fix the shadow on this so it makes more sense. For example, there's more shade going on the bottom half here, so I need to make sure that this bottom bit really feels it the most. But again, this is only the first level of shade, so this pencil can only do so much in terms of really making it dark without pressing too hard on it. And I'm not used to these pencils, this particular brand either, so I don't know how it can handle a little bit of extra pressure. Whereas there's a pencil I've been using, not Caran d'Ache, what was the pencil I was using? There's a set of pencils that I got about a year ago when there was a stationery shop nearby, which has sadly gone since then, which is a real pity because it was quite handy having a stationery shop on the way home from work, but sadly, you know, obviously didn't do enough business. Probably wasn't very well positioned, to be fair. But they have these pencils. I can't for the life of me think of the name of them right now. But they are really, really, really good, and I felt like you could put a bit more pressure on each one and they don't break as much. Because you know how sometimes people say, oh, a good artist doesn't, or a good workman doesn't, blames his tools, or a bad workman, sorry, blames his tools. That's really a silly saying, to be honest, because although ultimately it does, if you've got the skill, you can make anything work, which is true. You can make anything work, but but the tools do matter. If you're using cheap art materials, yes, you can still accomplish much. You can still accomplish a great piece, you know, and you know you can use biro, for example, and come up with a really fantastic piece. But if you've got the right tools, you get there quicker, you get there better, and you have a much stronger quality of image. It doesn't stop you getting it, it doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do, but it does make a difference if you've got the right equipment in terms of how it looks at the end. So, for example, if you've got a drill, you're trying to make a cabinet, and you're using a hammer and a chisel to build your to build it, you're going to do the job, but it'll take you a lot longer than if you had like a mechanical drill and a mechanical saw and a mechanical whatever other device that you need to make that chest of drawers. So you do need some, you know, the tools that you have do make a difference of how you accomplish your task. But it's not but you can't, as quite rightly said in the thing, you can't say, well, I didn't do it well because I didn't have the right tools. That's not quite true. You can do it, but you just didn't have the right tools to do it well. So having the right equipment does help, but also but the skill comes in how you apply it. Like those Stadler pencils, for example, they do alright, but look at the difference that this pencil has compared to the Stadler. It's a lot smoother. I'm getting a much more deeper line, and hopefully you can see that the picture's starting to come out a bit more and such. At least as I'm hoping you can see. So it does matter, your tools. They do matter, but it's your skills that really is what makes it. The tools don't magically make you an expert DIY. I mean, how many times do you hear, you know, DIY failures, and they've got all the equipment? You know, I'm not going to mention it, but there's a few people I know who keep talking about, oh, you've got to have the right equipment, you've got to have the right paintbrush, you've got to have the right this. And if you actually see their workmanship, they're talking a lot of garbage, because their workmanship doesn't match the tools that they've spent all this money on. You know, they buy expensive cameras that just left the dust, and their photos aren't the most amazing photos. You know, the equipment and the way they set it up isn't the most perfect setup. It's because of the way they've applied it, and they've spent the money getting the right tools, so to speak, but they still can't get it to do what it needs to be done. And despite that, they still think that they do it, you know, that it's what it needs to be. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I need to make sure that this is not completely white, because I am liking how this is starting to come through now. It's starting to really show, which is what I was trying to accomplish tonight. So I feel like we've really got somewhere with this. So I'm quite pleased in trying to give it a bit more hair sticking out from the bottom of the hat. As I say, because that was the goal, is just to really get this character at least somewhat finished. I think I was probably a bit too ambitious, thinking, yeah, we can finish this tonight. I think that was probably a bit, on my part, probably a bit too ambitious. But if I can at least get some level of completion, would be really good. So even like the hair, you see what I'm saying about the hair that's shaded? I've not put lots of individual lines, but you can kind of get the sense that there's a bit of depth from the hair. There's like strands of hair showing, so hopefully you can see that. And sometimes, you know, doing this, you learn different techniques as you do it. As you go along, you learn new ways of accomplishing it. Like right now, I'm doing eyelashes in a way I've never done it before. I've never actually done lashes in that style that I've just done right there. And it seems effective because they feel like Jack Nicholson eyelashes. Sorry, eyebrows, beg your pardon. See, now I'm adding the shade in the face a little bit. Definitely started to solidify, which is good. This is one of the older YouTube tunes. I think there's a couple of videos that I've used this on. There's at least one video that I'm really gutted that I can't use the original tune in. There was a video for Thunderbirds I did a while back called Tale Tellers. So you basically were supposed to represent your favourite artist or storyteller, something that inspired you when you were younger, into a picture for a competition. Now my piece didn't win any competitions, but it's definitely got the most likes on it. It's like one of my Talent House page, my Earth Dragon Talent House page. It's one of the most liked pictures, which is really good. But the video that I did, I wanted to use the Thunderbirds theme, but unfortunately the copyright police was all over it, and it wouldn't let me do it. And it actually, the actual video works so much better with the Thunderbird music. And I'm so gutted that it wouldn't let me use that music without getting a copyright strike. Although it might just be, I need to look back into it. It might just be that someone's gonna benefit from, you know, the adverts or whatever. And if that's the case, then I might just reinstate it. But really gutted about it because it's just so much better with that tune. I know there was a point I was trying to make on this, but I can't think what the point was. But the old tunes that on Facebook, on YouTube, were very good, but they were very limited. But they've really improved. They've got some really great tunes now. They've massively improved their range of themes for videos, and it's about time. The one thing I'm going to say though is this thing called Article 13, which I really hope does, you know, when it gets released, if it gets released, that, although I'd rather it doesn't, that it doesn't hinder the creativity. And I get the reason why they want to do it, because they want to protect people's work, and I don't want people stealing my art and making a profit off my own art, at least not without some level of, you know, compensation for that. I don't mean that in a legal sense, but in terms of, hey, this is your work, here's a bit of commission. I did a video, I shared your video, blah blah blah, and these are the lights I've had, so you get some of that money from that artwork. Royalties, that's more the word I'm looking for, royalties. That's fine, but I do think at the same time it stifles creativity, and it will definitely affect YouTube as a brand in terms of how they, excuse me, in terms of how they share videos. And so I hope that they do refine, you know, if the article does go ahead, and that it goes ahead with more fairly than what's being suggested, because it is, you know, it's suggesting that it's going to be quite, you know, it can be quite stifling. That's the word I'm looking for. For example, there's a couple of video makers or content makers, creators that have done Star Trek themed stuff, and CBS have basically thrown their weight in there and said, right, don't do that, not allowed. They won't let them, even though they've made it very clear that it's fan art. They're not doing it for profit. You know, the donations they've had is to make it, is purely to make a quality, you know, a quality video for people to enjoy. And CBS, instead of just really, you know, what's the word? Was embracing it and saying, okay, let's support what you're trying to do here. They instead just cease and desisted it, and I think it's a shame, because some of the videos that these guys have done are absolutely brilliant, and they've even been able to, maybe this is why they've done it, get actors in there that who have worked on the show before. But they've made it very clear that it's a Star Trek fan thing. You know, they're not doing it. They're not associated with CBS. You know, they've done it right. They've done it all the right way. They made it very clear that it's not. That they're not CBS. They are, you know, doing it as a fan, not anything else. So I'm kind of hoping this article, you know, this whole Article 13 thing won't have the impact that it should suggest it will be, and kills off YouTube and stuff like that, because that would be so sad if YouTube dies because of an article that's overkill in terms of its protection. Because at the end of the day, you know, fans is what makes these things, and if you stifle the fans being creative, you know, you're gonna end up just, you know, killing your fan base anyway. You're going to end up just really killing it, and you trying to protect people's property, which I don't disagree, because I don't want people using my stuff without my permission. But at the same time, it's also flattering when somebody takes your, you know, likes your work so much that they not necessarily copy it and say, oh, it's my work, but they want to kind of recreate it. That's actually inspiring, really. If you think about it, that inspires. It's what's the word? It's flattering. Yeah, people can say, oh, your artwork's good, you're this, and you know, they can give you, you know, props for what you've created. But when they go to the level where they say, well, I like your art so much that I want to recreate, make my own version of it. I like it so much that I want a piece of that, and I want to do, you know, I want to make something of that character, or reinvent that character the way that they see it. Or even just like I'm doing here, where I'm just drawing exactly the same character, but it's my version of him. You know, it's not that I've done any changes to it, but I've just drawn the Joker as he's on screen, but I've drawn it, I've not bought the picture of it. I've done my own version of Jack Nicholson's Joker, if you know what I mean. So it all makes a difference. So hopefully that, you know, that the powers that be that are trying to do this will realise that they, you know, they have to just be careful not to overdo what they're trying to accomplish. If you know, if you get what I'm saying. And the funny thing about this piece I'm doing right now is I'm really starting to really get into the crux of it now. I'm really starting to really pull it out on and sculpt it, because it's like sculpting in a way. Doing drawings is not, it's not just, oh yeah, let's put a few lines in and get the picture there. There's an element of sculpting involved. You're creating your you're reshaping things. You're seeing, as you're doing it, you're seeing things that need extra work. And this is definitely, this character definitely feels like he's starting to, you know, get round, you know, becoming solid, you know, becoming like a real defined image. Like the nose really is starting to stick out a bit more, in the right way. Now I might need to erase this pencil, not erase it, sharpen this pencil shortly. I think I probably messed it eye a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Might be able to pull it back. Actually, not so bad. If I just darken this a little bit, it should be alright. No, see, this is where it's going to be the toughest, because there should be more shade on this side, I think, than what I've actually put on it. So I've got to try and add it without ruining it, and that's always a challenge. Is when, how much shade do you do? The best way to do shading really is do it in small bits. Don't do a mass load of shading and then ruin your whole picture. Just take it stage by stage by stage. Just build it, build it, build it. Now if you've got the skill and you can do it straight, then do it straight. But if you feel like it's something, you know, if you don't want to, really don't want to ruin anything, you don't want to overkill your picture, take it a little bit by little bit. Because once you've laid it down, particularly if you're inking in like I did in this case, once it's done, it's done. You can't undo it. It's not like on a digital where you can you know, if you go too far you can, well, it's a few things. If you do it on digital, you can undo what you've done, but also particularly like the likes of Photoshop and things like that, is you can also if you do like shading on a different layer, for example, you can literally just delete the layer. If you've gone so far that you can't undo everything you've just done, you can, if you've done it on a separate layer, you can actually delete the whole layer and start again, and then you haven't lost all the other bits, and you've still got everything else that you on that piece that you've been trying to draw. Now I think here what I probably need to do is just to try and make it, darken it a little bit all over without going too far, because I can add extra shade later on. Because I'm trying to make this slide a bit darker because it's obviously in the shadow. But again, I'm trying not to go so far that I end up overkilling it. Because don't forget, some of this, the light's going to catch some part of this cheek. In fact, it's probably going to catch that part. So it's going to be kind of like that. Right, so I'm going to be finishing up soon. I think I've worked on this for quite some time. My throat is getting dry. You know, as much as I want to do more on this, I also need to take breaks as well, and it's not good to always constantly be sitting in one place for too long. You need to take breaks, and any artist will tell you to do it, but I'll also tell you that usually when you get into a piece and you really getting stuck in, you often just carry on going and you forget that you need to stop and take breaks. So I will call this a night shortly, but I definitely feel like tonight I've really accomplished a lot. I feel like definitely I've managed to get a good solid chunk of this ready compared to when I started on the stream, because this piece has sort of been in the back of my mind for a very long time, and at one point when I wanted to work on it, I couldn't even find it. So it's nice to be able to find it, get on with it, start pulling it together. In fact, I need to solidify that hat a bit as well. I need to do some more shade on the hat, and I just realised that needs to be a bit darker as well there. What I'll probably do before I finish tonight is just do a little bit of smudging, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that shortly, because it helps to smooth everything in a bit. Now, any Twitch fellows, what I'll do is once I've finished with this video, I'll probably upload it on, do a slight edit just to get rid of any chat or whatever, but I'll upload it onto my Twitch page. If anyone that watches me on Twitch can enjoy the process. And then I'm going to take a solid break. I'm really happy that how this is really coming together. I really feel like, you know, considering I wouldn't say I'm particularly great at portraits and stuff like that. As portraits go, I'm fairly pleased with this. And I think the thing with portraits is I'm not a big fan of portraits. Well, just to clarify, I'm not a fan of drawing portraits. So when people say, "Oh, can you draw a portrait of me?" It's like, I'm not really. I could try, but it's not going to be that good. I could do a cartoon version of you, you know, like a caricature-ish, but it won't be like a direct. This looks exactly like you, like this guy. So for me to draw this Joker, and it actually looks like Jack Nicholson, I'm quite happy with how I've accomplished that, and even now with all the shading, feeling like it's getting some, you know, it's starting to feel like it should. I am fairly pleased that it's coming along the way I hoped it would. And it also means I'm that one bit closer to finishing it as well. Now, this bit's going to be fairly tricky because I think there's going to be shade sort of halfway down the face there, and a little bit on the corner, because the light's going to catch the top part. So this part here is going to be quite light. And one thing I realised about lips as well is just above the top of your lip there's just a little ridge, very subtle ridge, which I hadn't really noticed until I started doing stuff like that. So I'm trying to keep that in mind when I'm doing it, so there's Just that little bit of shine on it. And I try to bear in mind that it's got a little bit, you know, there's, how can I put it? There's a little bit of shadow here. Now maybe next year, I'm just thinking out loud here, and I might forget. If I do forget and you happen to be watching, do remind me. But maybe next year, Halloween time, I might do what's his name, Pennywise from It in this version, because I think it suits this particular style. I know I'm finishing, but that's the problem. When you get into it, you get to a point where you think, oh, I'm really feeling this now. I'm really getting into it. So maybe tomorrow on stream, I might on Twitch, and I'm gonna be on Twitch tomorrow. Twitch channel, by the way, is Earth Dragon. Just literally Earth Dragon, no art or whatever, just Earth Dragon straight. Same as this one, but just that. So maybe I'll do this tomorrow on Twitch. Just for just to kind of finish it up a bit, and do a bit more work. Because I think one thing I've got to learn to start doing is when I'm doing projects, particularly if I'm streaming them, try and do one solid piece for a while, and then move to the next one. Because I feel like I do jump from piece to piece. And I don't think it's necessarily the right thing to do all the time, because you come and watch your first piece and you never see the finished result. Right, so I'm just adding a bit of darkness on here, a little bit, because when I get the more solid colours, that's when I'm going to really define it. Because you don't want to leave too much white, because the thing is, it's easy to leave a lot of white. Oops, keep hitting the light. It's easy to leave a lot of white, but then you end up, it doesn't always make the piece look solid when there's too much empty space, if you know what I mean. Alright, so I'm going to go out, grab a little tissue, and I'll show you what I mean by smudging. So bear with me for just a moment, and I'll finish off with that. This is a little technique I learned a little while ago, and I never realised that sometimes this is why pictures are so smooth, which is just grab a tissue. You can do it with your fingers, but I find it's always better to use a tissue because it doesn't go on your hands like it has to here, and it just gently smudge it in. What that does is it just really helps gel all the shading and everything a bit together. Now you've got to be a bit careful because you don't want to smudge too much so it all blends in together. But you can hopefully, I don't know if you can see, but hope you can see it just brings it in and just really helps you to kind of make it look, again, adds that little naturality to it. And it takes away some of the hard lines that you've drawn. See, like there, look, if you look at the that side and that side, see how that slightly looks less intensive just from a little bit of smudging. So it's quite a nice little trick to do. Now I might not do it with so much of the hair, but it just makes a bit of difference. But you got to not do too much of it, but just enough. So if I go here and do the same here, and hopefully you can get the point I'm trying to make. I suppose I could do it with the hair, but it just adds a little bit of fluffiness to it. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, if you can see exactly how it's working, but it's almost like when you use Gaussian blur on Photoshop, almost. Only difference is you're manually, you're doing it. You're still manually putting it together. You see how much more, hopefully, much more natural that's feeling in terms of just the way the face is gelling together. The lines aren't quite so harsh and hard. Right, one last thing I want to do that's bothering me. Let's get my little eraser out, because there's all these little lines on the outside, so I'm going to try and remove some of them. Just try and clean it up a bit. Actually, let me use is this eraser doing it? And this is just the construction lines. I'm not getting rid of anything specific on the piece. It's just these construction lines that are there. So it's taken away from the picture a bit. The more I take away aspects I don't need, the better the piece is going to look at the end. Especially on the bottom bit where I'm going to be, colouring, shading these bits in the bottom in. So I'm just getting rid of construction lines only. So everything else can stay. So all these construction lines there. Now sometimes construction lines can be quite handy because they can show things up that you don't normally see, or gives you, can sometimes give you a bit of additional direction other than the shape of the character or the design that you're trying to portray. For example, if you're doing somebody that's quite muscular, say you're drawing, say, Creed from Rocky or any of those characters, having the construction lines might help you to add muscle in there that you wouldn't have thought of putting in there automatically, unless you're looking at an actual picture. Then you might have done, but you might find when you do it, certain aspects show up that you hadn't considered at the time. So this is another reason why this is quite good to do this. Particularly on a hat where the hat needs to be quite smooth and round. You don't want it too blurred around the edges. Now once I finish the piece, I'll rub off all the side bits so it's a nice clean image. But this is just more so that, at least for the stream today anyway, that I've got a nice clean drawing. You can see where everything's supposed to be without the construction lines getting in the way. And distracting me. Now this eraser is a bit rough to use actually. I don't know if it's the paper or what, but it feels very scratchy. Oops. Right, almost finished for the night, guys. Just a little bit more further to go. Whoops. Alright. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so just to recap, this was the original Joker that I did back in 1989, August 1989, and this was directly off the back of the first Batman film from Tim Burton, which is one of my favourite Batman films of all time. From the Tim Burton range, I think the first one is one I like the best. From the Schumacher, the only one I like is for Batman Forever. Absolutely love that film. I know some people do, some people don't, but I actually personally love it. And then obviously the Dark Knight is the probably the best Batman featuring Joker out there. But this was taken from the Tim Burton's Batman version. And as you can see with this one, again, just to remind you, is although you can tell it's you can tell it's Joker, and you can sort of tell it's Jack Nicholson. It did not. If you didn't know that this was the Joker or Jack Nicholson, or this was the Joker from that, you wouldn't know who this is. You'd be like, who is that? Who is this character? Who is this person? It's not clear who this is. This one, however, I'm pleased for my own part, is how it instinctively looks like Jack Nicholson. You can tell from the get-go this is Jack Nicholson and looks like the Joker. I feel like this one I've really nailed the face, the features. You can see the massive difference. The chin is not way down the page. The eyes are actually level and they're in the right place. The hat feels like it's sitting on his head, and even the shoulders feel more natural. Now I can still probably work on some areas, but I'm 10 times happier with this. So thank you very much for everyone for watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I apologise if there was any lag on the system. I am still trying to tweak my OBS so that I get a nice smooth steady stream. I can only do my best, but thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate you taking the time. Next time I come on, I will try and make it so that my camera's not in my face. But that's where it is at the minute. So thanks so much, have a lovely evening, and for those of you who are interested, I will be on Twitch tomorrow around about 4 PM UK time. So if you are watching from overseas, bear that in mind. I don't know what that time is in our countries, but you'll need to go and search UK time to get it and set your alarms for that period. But thanks so much for watching. I will see you then. Until next time, I'll be seeing you. Bye bye.